Hello everybody, I'm So Cutie, and today we're doing a brisk breakdown on set 10, Amber Steel. Amber Steel has been an amazing deck overall. I've started to play a lot more, and this is probably one of the biggest highlights in this meta. I know a lot of people are saying aggro's dead, spooky sight, etc., all these other things, but Amber Steel just has probably the most impenetrable card pool in the world. If they roll into Tiana, if they roll into huge curves, it's really unstoppable, and now they have 8 cards to combat Spooky. Likelihood is that Amber Steel still remains probably the third deck in the format. My power rankings are a little off just because I didn't edit them, and I kind of didn't give it to them in the beginning of the set, because I did really expect to fall off, but after testing and playing with it and playing against it, it's just been amazing. So let's get right into it. Again, these are the power rankings. In reality, the thing is, if Amber Steel does get wiped and they just get unlucky, the thing is, you do get wiped pretty hard. The thing is, Amber Steel can beat Blue Steel, it can beat Green Blue, and it can beat Purple Steel, and it can beat Blurple. But the second you're shut out, it becomes really hard, and that's why in terms of like power and consistency, it's just a little lower. But to say that it's 6 to the first, the gap isn't actually as big as it seems when I say first to sixth. Yeah, like the gap isn't as big as I'm showing here, but there is a gap, right? Biggest switch that I really made was Green Blue and Ruby Am. Green Blue new board wipe is really consistent just because there's no more stat checking. It's really just, it's a 3-card combo and you get wiped, or a 2-card combo in the very late game and you get wiped. It's pretty unstoppable overall. Like even things like Lumiere don't work anymore, and after testing against it, because I play Ruby M a lot, it just is really hard to navigate, especially because they still play Cow. There's just a lot of little things that you have to really like navigate through, and if you don't roll high enough and you don't play Disputed at high counts, if you're trying to play like a Dragonfire build and things like that, it just becomes really difficult. So those are like the biggest switches in power rankings, and again, the differences aren't like massive. From 1st to 7th, the difference isn't massive as, you know, as it seems, but in terms of like consistency and how you're going to be rolling blind and all these other things, like it does have to go this way, I believe. And then again, popularity, I do still think Amber Steel is going to be like one of the most popular. And again, so this is the list. It's pretty much what we have seen, right? You know, the 1-drops are the same. The only addition is Mowgli, but that's very popular and people know that. There's obviously the Penny, the Troob, no Calhoun. I'll get into that. And then Nala's at 3. You know, the Raja, a little bit spicy, but we've seen that as well. Ladies, Pete's at 4, a little new again, but we've seen that. And then Mickey Mouse, actually, and then with the 1 Bolt. I'll get into all these, but yeah, I mean, it's been really good. It's been really good. There's times where I lose to very, I would say like luck-based interactions where they're really hardcore top decking like multiple forms of like heavy removal. And I'm talking about like triple bolts, you know, like back to back, when they're like 2 cards in hand, and I've checked. But again, those are things like you kind of just have to deal with in the game, and that happens and whatever. This was the first list that I tested, and then the very last list I'll be showing is like revisions and things that'll change, but I haven't tested. But let's get right into it. Again, so why Amber Steel? Amber Steel just has this thing where you can't really check it unless you're board wiping, which is why Green Blue does so well into it if they roll higher. But the thing is, for other decks, they need to rely on like single card interactions with Tiana. So like Purple Steel needs to find Bolt, or they need to have Skater Mim and then challenge and pay a turn, right? And then Blurple needs like ITU. It needs like Hades and things like this. There's just so many things that like you need specifically to answer Tiana, right? And just that demand on its own is crazy, especially when you're playing blind Swiss. Amber Steel just presents such a big issue that's crazy. Now let's say it's not blind and you know what you're mulliganing for. Now if you keep ITU, or if you keep Spooky, or if you keep Bolt, or if you keep Strength, the likelihood is that Mowgli strips it every time. And Mowgli and Pete are cards that can come out on curve to Tiana with Lady or just Raw and always answer the clear for the first Tiana, right? And then after that, it's kind of just you play Amber Steel. That's so good. You have 8 cards that defend Tiana. And then on top of this, if you're playing Skater Mim, you have now Raja. Raja is a crazy card, and I'll get into it a little later. But Amber Steel is just a very good deck. And again, if you're playing aggro and then they have to mulligan hard for Spooky, the likelihood that you hit Spooky almost every time is so high. If you hit it on curve, like on the turn before they're gonna hit the Spooky, the likelihood you hit it is so high. Like, people are saying aggro is not gonna be good, aggro is not gonna be like great, but the thing is, it will be good. And Amber Steel is still one of the best decks in the format. Nala is just one of the best cards, dude. On 2, it's sure, like, you have Piglet and things like that back in the formats, but like, always questing for 3, and even playing it like after they removed your whole board and whatever, and they're trying to close you out, you just playing this, if they don't have an answer, you're questing for 3. That's so good. Nala has been so good. Like, when I was playing like Purple Steel Mirrors the other day, and this guy just drops Nala out of nowhere after I like board wiped him, and I thought I was like really crawling back because I was on the draw. He drops this, and I'm like, wow, I literally don't have an answer for this like random Nala that's questing for 3. It's just really funny, and it's just a really good card. So again, abusing something that is this strong with, again, we still are pretty much in a limited removal format. Like, sure, we have Dragonfire, Disputed Strength, Bolts. We have a couple more pinging cards and things like that. But the thing is, how efficient and how healthy are they in decks? Like, even Bolt. Bolt is good, sure, but only producing 4 is a little lackluster. And it continues to clog my hand when I play it. And so people like Thiago are only playing it at 1. Like, that is health. Because if you see 1 in the first 12 cards, it's really, really unhealthy. So again, why no Cannons and why no Calhoun? These are like really popular card choices overall to always have in these steel decks. The thing is, in the format that we're looking at, where people want to over-tech to deal with aggro and not play aggro because they're scared of Spooky, you can't really afford to take uninkable turns to answer something that isn't actually a threat, right? So as much as people can still play like Shift Clara, Under the Sea, and things like that, where you want to answer the Clarabelle or the, you know, all these other combo pieces or curve pieces, Cannons just doesn't do it anymore because there's so much more to worry about. Like, there's Malicious and Mean, there's people just stat boosting and taking out your things, there's people like hard, like playing the Labubu girl, or playing, there's like that dog in purple that would just bounce your card. There's just a lot of cards right now that get around being responded to by Cannons, right? And again, something like Calhoun, if you're not a mid-range deck, you don't actually afford Calhoun anymore. The thing is, again, Uninkable doesn't quest for more than 1 and isn't guaranteed to hit something. And sure, it has a stat line, but in terms of like spooking things, you're not scared of getting checked for your stat line, or like Under the Sea and things like that. Like, you're not scared of a stat line anymore. You're scared of being full wiped by Malicious or Spooky, or getting challenged, right? And there's just so many more answers now in the meta, or like in your deck, in Amber Steel, to answer the bad matchups that aren't these cards anymore. And obviously, I won't say that they're not bad. Like, they're not bad. You can still play them. But the thing is, there's just cards now that are just a little bit better than them. And because of how the format is looking and developing right now, it is not the answer right now. If the meta starts rounding out again, you can probably slot Cannon, but probably still not Calhoun. It's a little tricky, but again, that's just how I see it. Again, Tiana is just a super, super, super good card. Again, sure, we have Bolt and things like that, dude, but what is going to be shifting on 3, and what is going to be playing on 3 if you're not Blue Steel to sing Bolt on this? And the thing is, if you're taking so many resources to sing an uninkable song with your 4-drop, the likelihood is that you have 2 cards in hand. And if you're on the draw, sure, you take Tiana, but again, you can play like things like Daisy Nala if you know that they're going to be hard mulliganing for Bolt. And again, you have Pete. Like, things on curve are just very hard. Like, a card like Bolt isn't as good when it's not from Troubadour, or it's not from like singers like we used to have in Steel Song. It's just not as good. Like, if you're a turn 2 singer, it's amazing. But if you're a turn 3 singer, it's just not good. It's not good. It's a good card, and I get it. You ping 4, it's a song, I get it. But the thing is, in the format that we're in, post-rotation, you can't afford its health. And so Tiana is honestly still just an amazing card in this format, and will continue to be just an amazing, amazing card this format. And I put money on it, and yeah, she's around. Again, Troubadour and Rhino are built-in mirror breakers. Just amazing cards. Again, a turn 2 Singer. Again, that's why I play the 1 Bolt. Something to note is that I play the 1 Bolt. The thing is, in the mirror, you might have to snipe that Tiana, and hard mulliganing isn't really that bad in decks like Purple Steel and Amber Steel, just because the rest of the deck is pretty much the same curve. So if you mull 7, you'll probably just get a different version of the same curve. That's why it's a little bit healthier to do that in decks like Amber Steel and Purple Steel. But again, a turn 2 Singer is the key, and then Rhino being a huge body that can't get hit by Spooky in the off chances that you kind of just need to rely on Rhino and Mowgli. It happens. But they're just built-in mirror breakers. They're just amazing cards. They never underperform. Obviously, there's times where you like top deck the Troubadour and it's just a little bit lackluster. But again, the deck gets to that point where if you get shut out early, like that's just how it goes, right? You aren't supposed to win all of them. And if you get shut out early, it just means the other deck played insanely well to shut you out early, or you just drew really bad, and that happens. But these cards have been performing amazingly, and again, I run this guy at 3 just because of that off chance that you do get shut out early. You don't really want to see him late game, but again, Mickey Mouse has been amazing. So I have him at 2. I would actually drop him to 1. It's the off chance that you hit really heavy combat decks. Ruby Steel is really popular right now, and so is Purple Steel. The thing is, Mickey is a Rapunzel's tower that sits on the board and is actually really hard to answer. A 2/5 is very relevant. Again, why Bolt isn't that crazy. You have to produce 5 damage, which is, it's really demanding. It is very, very demanding. And again, you could play things like Elsa or Demona to exert and start challenging. But again, if the Amber Steel player, if you're playing Raja, it is very oppressive. Raja is a 3/6. That's crazy. That is a crazy stat. That is infinitely better than Pluto. And then Singer 8 is like a bonus. It's whatever. The Singer 8 isn't actually that crazy. Don't get baited by this and play like Horizon or things like that, and like Circle of Life. At this moment in this meta, I believe that secondary effect is a little bait just for its first effect, and it's kind of in the lack of interactability. If you produce like the bodyguards and stuff and Tiana, it's just very good. Like, this is not going to get touched. And again, Tiana being 1/6, it's pretty broken. Raja has been amazing. For a bodyguard to come out on curve with Tiana, but that produces 3 damage back and does not get cleared by 3 damage in, insane. An insane stat. Even if they wanted to boost the Calhoun to take this, Calhoun will be traded out, and they consumed a whole turn to destroy Raja, and then you could just produce other things the next turn. If they take the turn to hard cast Bolt, because no matter what, unless they're blue, they cannot answer the Tiana, because the idea is that they would need to Bolt. They would need to hard cast Bolt on Tiana, or they would need to hard cast on Raja. And if they hard cast on Tiana, then Raja gets to eat things, and then if they hard cast it on Raja, they're taking the whole turn off and not answering Tiana. So the thing is, it really punishes bad interactions for mirrored Steel players. But even then, getting to the curve where you can just play Bolt, it's a little bit too late in the game, and you've probably already produced the Mickey, or you've probably already produced like the Lady Doc, or you've already produced another tanky drop. There's just too many things to answer. Penny has been a little bit lackluster. Resist isn't as important in this format, especially when you can produce Raja. Also damage. Both effects of her, the resist and the damage, are a little bit lackluster. Even her stat line, I guess, but in reality she quests for 2, and she's like still good, and she's Amber. So the Mickey procs and things like that. So she's not terrible, and obviously there's going to be times where you can like resist through like a preemptive like boosted Calhoun and whatever. So I get it. Like I really do get it. She's still pretty good, but the thing is, her effect is like, it's like whatever now. Doesn't really come in handy. So it's like, it's really just you're playing her for the 2 quester and the very off chance she can resist in a combat heavy deck. Lady has been a little lackluster, but I would never cut it. The thing is, it's probably the strongest card to come out on curve with Tiana on the play. The only reason why I say it's lackluster is just because there's times where you just kind of want to play Raja and stuff like that, and maybe you don't have Doc, right? Or you don't have another 2-quester, you don't have another 2 cost because you have to play like the Pete and like Rhino and things like that just to be a little healthier. So it's been like lackluster just because a lot of my decks have been like into mid-range and like blue. So I kind of just like rely on like the Daisy Nala kind of gimmick with like Mowgli Pete. So like Lady is like hit or miss, but the thing is when she does hit, she always hits, and if she misses, you kind of just ink her. So that's the only reason why I like nitpick and say lackluster, but in reality, she's a good card still, and still deserves to be F4. So this is a mulligan note before we get into the mulligans. If you see Doc in your hand in the first 7, besides if there's more, okay. So it's like this. If you don't see Doc, you likely have to keep Mulan, right? But if you see Doc and the rest of the hand isn't healthy enough to stay, the likelihood is that you have to ditch that Doc as well, because the likelihood that you draw into another one is semi-high, and then the likelihood you draw into the Mulan to fix the hand, even if you drew into 2 more, is also high. So I think mulliganing is probably one of the hardest things in Amber Steel because Doc is such a high-value card. If you see a really good curve and Doc, you keep it all, no matter what. But if you see Doc and the rest of the 6 are not playable, you have to send back 7. And then if you see Mulan and Doc and the next 5 have to go back, the likelihood is that you also send back Doc. Those are just like really slight mulligan notes, and it becomes really hard because you have to really feel it. This one I should have made like a separate video on and things like that, but Doc is a very high skill cap mulligan. You can't be greedy, and obviously you always want it, but the thing is if you don't start with a 1, 2, 3, Doc is kind of dead regardless because you're gonna be losing straight off the bat, so Doc doesn't help you anymore. Amber Steel is very special in the way that it can play out its first 7 and likely win. So this is just something important to note on when and when not to keep Doc. Again, if you see a curve like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have Doc and you only have to send back 1, do it every time. But again, this is like on the play, very obvious. If you don't have this, you just go into like an inkable 2-drop and the Daisy, or even like, you know, Aurora, Mulan. Like there's things you can do, right? Lady Raja is almost always correct on the play. It just always, if it's blind, like Lady just says you can turn it up, and Raja says that you're going to be safe and impenetrable and not be challenged. So they're both really, really applicable into like almost everything you do on the play blind. Obviously, as a player, you know that there's going to be demands from a different deck, so this changes based on the matchup, right? Very slightly, depending on what their builds are and things like that. But again, very, very cookie cutter, what we learn. You know, it's always got to be like this. This is like an on-draw flippable. So there's going to be another on-the-draw that I go through. So, like, on-the-draw flippable is, like, what I mean when I say, like, we're playing against a mirror, we're playing against another steel mirror and things like that. Steel mirrors, mainly, is what I'm talking about, or challenging heavy decks. Because Strength of Raging Fire is a card that allows you to flip the board state and allows you to flip the tempo. Especially them producing things like Tiana and Raja that basically make you the demanding opponent, and having like a big quester like Daisy even proccing, that puts you ahead 1 lore. You're now the one on the play. So this is definitely like the best on the draw into like any other mirror, and then this is like on the draw into anything that blue or anything like that high curves high, right? You basically just want Daisy Nala Mowgli or Daisy Nala Pete, anything like that. Daisy Nala is basically enough to win the game by like turn 5. And then things like Lady Mowgli, or just Mowgli and other Daisy. Obviously, if you get 4 daisies, dude, just play 4 daisies. Again, it's just easy. This is what you have to do. The only reason why you do this on the draw almost always to blue instead of something like this is because when you're on the draw, they have 1 more turn to do something that gets them closer to their wipe. And so regardless of anything you do, you'll always be slower, right? Even if you open like this really good curve into blue, but you're on the draw, they get to their wipe faster than you can get to a healthy answer that doesn't like break your tempo. So doing this right away is just basically saying like I will quest faster than I could have before, and it makes up for you being on the draw rather than on the play. So their moves have to be a little bit different. They might have to go into like a double ink turn. They might have to do that. So Mowgli then hits, and then you're still questing for 7, right? So that's kind of like the math there. So on the draw to blue, you don't even if it's like a Blurple and stuff like that, you don't usually go for Tiana unless it's like a healthy curve like this, and then Tiana there, raw. Because again, just depending on like what they're producing, it's really heavy on like what they're producing. Can they challenge with their Fiki? Do they have a Basil? It's things like that. A little bit of a learning curve, but overall like high curve blues like blue steel, blue green. Any other blues out there right now? I'm probably missing something, but Blurple is like a little exception. But again, the other blues just kind of this. Further on though, again, I talked about a little bit of changes and things like that. So just count changes, Nala up, Raja up, the Bolt stays, the Mickey goes down. It's just a little bit of win more, but I do think it's actually pretty necessary when it comes to your worst matchup being purple steel. And the champion cards are just really good. Bolt at 1, it's like the only way you can really afford it. Especially with like Mulan, like sure you can filter out stuff, but you don't want to filter out more than 1 or 2. So just having the 1 basically always guarantees in your mind that it will always be a curve stomper or like a flipper, a tempo flipper. And if you don't need it, you just dump it, right? And like you're just like, oh, okay, I don't need Bolt. And this deck never needed Bolt to win. So it's fine. Like I don't need this 1 Bolt. So Mulan lets you afford things like that. Again, just Penny down 1, Troubadour down 1. And again, unexpected metas, if you're going just to leagues or open tournaments, things like that. It could change very slightly. You could even cut these 1-ofs and just make it a full 16 unique cards and whatever. But yeah, Amber Steel, it's been around. I didn't make it. Just wanted to break it down, show people how I play it, show people what I do, show people why it's still really good, honestly, in this meta. And I do expect to see it. There's a major CCQ going on right now, I believe, in Europe. And I probably expect this deck to win. I haven't watched it. I don't think there's a live stream or anything. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.